Okay, so the next lecture is on autoencoders. And in the previous lecture, we saw that how we can use classical computer vision algorithms to extract features from images, right? We studied HOG, histogram of gradients. We studied SIFT features. We studied how we can detect key points in your images. Now, autoencoder, it's kind of, we are shifting gears and we are moving from classical computer vision to, let's say, the learning-based approaches or data-driven approaches, which is towards deep learning. And of course, there are a lot of different ways to extract features in deep learning as well. Autoencoder is one of them. And it's like one of the simplest way as well. So we'll start with this. Okay, so the core idea of autoencoder is, as the name suggests, whatever input you have, you learn features from that input, and then you try to reconstruct that input. Okay, so that's the core idea. And the way you do this is, you have your input sample and you try to learn some meaningful features. Okay, and using that could be fully connected layers, that could be your CNN convolution layers, or like any other way. So you learn those features and then you use those features to again reconstruct that input data. And if you're able to do that, it means the features are good, because then they're capturing the information about your input sample, right? That's why they're able to reconstruct it. Now, some key features here should be, when you are learning those features, the size of those features should be pretty small as compared to your input data. Otherwise, what you can do is you can just copy like all the pixel values. Let's say if the input is image, you can just copy all those values, and you say that, okay, this is my feature, and since you have just copied, you can do the reconstruction as well. Okay, but those are not good features. So what we want is, we want like features in a compressed format where the number of values is like far less than your input dimensionality. Now, another interesting aspect of autoencoders is this falls like somewhere like in unsupervised learning regime. And the reason is, you don't need any annotations. All you need is data. If you have some image, you don't need any annotation on that. You don't care like what objects are present in that image, because you don't need those labels to train the model. You have the data point, let's say you have the image. All you need is the same image itself, like to train your model, because you will train your model using reconstruction loss. Okay, so this is kind of not completely unsupervised, because you have a loss function to train it, but unsupervised in a sense that you don't need annotations. Okay, but still you will have a loss function, you will compute the loss values, you will compute the gradients, and you are going to train your model. Okay, so you have that supervision in autoencoders. Okay, so supervised, as I said, you will need some kind of labels or annotations. And one simple example is, if you are doing image classification, for each image, you should know what object is present in that image to be able to train your model. The basic architecture you have for autoencoder is, it's just basically two parts. The first is encoder, the second is decoder. And again, this is just at conceptual level. I mean, you can have any kind of encoders, you can have any kind of decoders. And again, it depends on the data. Okay, so autoencoder, it's not like very specific to images. It can be applied to any domain. If you have video, then you can have autoencoders. You can have autoencoders for like text kind of input as well, for language, or maybe audio signal. Okay. So the basic structure looks something like this. You have this input data. In this case, it could be some feature vector, it could be images, it could be a video, and you have your encoder head, which takes like this as input, and it tries to like compress that input to a very small like dimensionality space. Okay, so that's called the code. And then what you do is, you use that code to again reconstruct the same input, which is shown as x prime here. Okay, so when you do that reconstruction, then what you can do is, you can actually estimate how good that reconstruction was, because you have that input here. Okay, so you can just compare like this input with the output, and you can use that to compute your loss. So that could be your training loss when you train this kind of model. Okay, so this part is called encoder, and this part is called decoder. So this will be like the basic structure of any autoencoder you design. Now, I think in one of the lectures, we were also talking about PCA and singular value decomposition, where we saw that PCA is like a very good way to compress your features and to represent your data samples. And we also discussed like how that was used when I think the first time we went to Moon, the images were sent, like their PCA was used because the images were compressed and then only few values were sent over and then the image was actually reconstructed. Okay, so PCA is very, very powerful and effective in that. And in that sense, it has like correlation. You can say like some kind of relation to PCA, because even in autoencoders, we are trying to compress the size of the features, right? So we are only trying to learn very, very important set of features, which are sufficient to actually do the reconstruction. Right, so there's some comparison you can make between these two, which is I think fine, because PCA, the idea is you try to learn like the most prominent, you can say like most prominent properties you have in your data. And then you do some kind of linear combination of those properties to define your objects. And autoencoders, it's like trying to do the same thing, but in this case, we are trying to actually learn it from the data, right? In that case, it's not learning, you're just extracting what is there. Okay, PCA, I mean, it's a known algorithm, right? You have certain set of steps, I mean, there's no learning involved. Okay, so what you can do is you can define your encoders and decoders from an autoencoder as a function. And let's say your encoder is function f and x is your input. So you will send your input to the function f, the encoder, and h, let's say, is your latent space. Then let's say this is your original input image, x. F is your encoder function. Then this will be your latent representation. And then again, you can represent your decoder as a function where you send in like this latent code as input. For example, in this case, like G is your decoder, and which will give you R, which is the reconstruction of the input. Okay, so in this case, it will try to reconstruct 4. Now, again, you can have a lot of variations of autoencoders. You can have shallow autoencoders, which means like only few layers. In this case, you just have one layer in encoder and one layer in the decoder. Or you can have very deep networks where you can have several layers in your encoder and several layers in your decoder. And most of the time, it's kind of asymmetric. You have like similar kind of structure on the encoder, and you just try to mimic that while you decode your latent code. But of course, that's not like a requirement. You can have variations there as well. Okay. Now, as I said, like autoencoder, you can have fully connected layers, you can have CNNs, you can have something else as well. And this is like a very standard CNN-based autoencoder where you have input images, and in this case, it's a grayscale image. So what you do is you have these convolution layers, and the idea is you try to compress like your features to get like a very small latent code. In this case, you have, let's say 28 cross 28, this conv is giving you 14 cross 14 cross 32. Again, you have some max pooling, you have convolution. Again, max pooling convolution, you're reducing like your activation maps. And then you can flatten it. And you did that in your first assignment, so you should know all of this. And then you can have more fully connected layers, which will, let's say, give you this latent code, which has just 10 different values. Okay, so it's kind of a combination between CNN and fully connected layer. And here you can see that the total number of pixel values you have in your input data, that was 28 times 28. But this encoder is actually reducing that to just 10 different values, which means this is kind of a good autoencoder. And then what you do is, in this case, it's kind of symmetrical to like your encoder. You take those values, again, you have fully connected layers, then you can do reshaping, and again, you can perform convolution operation, then you can do upscaling, or you can also do maybe there is a deconvolution operation, but again, don't worry about it. You don't have to understand this at this point of time. But basically what you can do is once you reshape, you can perform convolution on that, right? So to increase the resolution, you can just upsample it, or you can say you can repeat the pixel values. So like max pooling was reducing the activation map size. So it was just doing, if it's max pooling, it will pick the maximum value. If it's average pooling, it will just take the average, right? So upsampling, you just repeat that value. Okay. And then again, you can perform convolution. Again, you can do upsampling, convolution until you have the desired resolution, which should mimic the input data point. And you can easily train this thing. You can actually maybe use MSE loss, which is mean squared loss. You can also use binary cross entropy loss. All of that is fine. The idea is you can compute like that loss, like pixel wise. For each pixel, you can compute a loss depending upon whether the pixel was reconstructed correctly or not. So a very simple loss could be like Elvin loss. Okay, so the way it will work is for each pixel, you will just subtract like what your network has reconstructed with the original image. So it's just like x1 minus x2. And you just average that over all the pixels, and that could be your Elvin loss. Okay, you can also compute L2 loss, which is same as like MSE loss. Okay, so that's like a basic structure of your CNN based autoencoder. And let me show you some interesting examples. So this is the funny part. So we have an autoencoder, again, like something similar to what I showed in the last slide. And your input was images, which are of shape 28 cross 28. And now in this particular example, what we are showing you, we are trying to compress this to just 2 different values. In the previous, we were trying to compress into 10 different values. But instead of 10, we are compressing just to 2 values. Okay, so that's like a lot of compression. And now let's see like what autoencoder can give you. The top row is your original image. Okay, and then you train your autoencoder using these images where the latent code is just 2 values. And the second row is actually showing you the reconstructed images. So you'll be amazed by like just 2 values are actually capturing all the information you have, let's say for this shoe, and it's able to reconstruct it. Okay, these are like 28 cross 28 pixels, which means like just 2 values are sufficient. And in this case, you can see like the shape is completely preserved by just using 2 numbers. And you can see the fine details are gone, right? This is like a very complex logo, but you can't save that logo in just 2 numbers. So that's completely gone. So those fine level details, even here, you can see like they're completely gone, but the overall structure is still preserved in most of these cases. Okay, so I think that's really interesting. And if you compare that with like PCA reconstruction, which we were discussing in one of the earlier lecture, again, this is not so bad because 2 numbers is like pretty high compression, right? But still it's doing a fine job, but not as good as your autoencoder reconstruction. Okay, so that's like one way to see how powerful these autoencoders can be. And now, so that was fine. Now the interesting aspect is, why are they useful? So what you can do is, you can use autoencoders to actually perform feature learning. And you can see that when you don't even need labels for these, you can just train using your data, unlabeled data. And the way you will extract features is, once you have trained your autoencoder, you will just discard this decoder because you don't care about reconstruction. All we care about is these 10 values. And what will happen is, given any input image, this encoder will be able to give you these 10 values, which you can use as features for that particular image. Okay. And this kind of like features you can use in a lot of applications. One simple application is, for example, image retrieval. And this is something which you also use for your, let's say, Google image search or Bing image search. The idea here is, we have a lot of images in our database, okay, millions of billions of trillions of images. What you can do is, the encoder you have trained, you can actually use that encoder to extract like a feature vector for all these images. Okay, and again, that feature vector, I mean, I showed 10 numbers, but it's up to you. Like, it depends how complex your image is. But still, that will be a lot of compression, right? So instead of saving like trillion of images, if you just use that encoder and save those values, that will reduce like your disk space cost, right? You just have to store those numbers then instead of these images. So how image retrieval will work is you will have some query image. You will say, okay, Google image, let's find like more images like this. And then what it will do is it will take this image, take that trained encoder, again, extract those features. And in the backend, it will just try to match those features with all the features which are extracted from these images. And the feature to which it will like, it will give you like the closest distance, then you can just retrieve that image and that will be your response. Okay, so that's how image retrieval works. And but you can see that it was, once you have that trained autoencoder, it's pretty straightforward, right? And I think this could be a very interesting course project as well, because we have already learned like how to train these classifiers, but you just have to add this decoder part, right? And of course, like you will have one assignment where you have to implement this, but then you can try to extend that to maybe some other problem, for example, image retrieval, right? You can create your own small data set. It could be from any domain, and you can show that how those features are actually working for this problem. So it's not very complicated as well, but I think will be a very good project.